Overcrowded prisons are a growing crisis most people never see, hidden behind concrete walls and locked steel doors. This is not just about bodies packed into cells, but about pressure, fear, and raw human stress piling up every single day. Imagine spaces meant for a handful of people now holding dozens, where breathing room barely exists and every sound echoes with frustration and desperation. Every corner feels tense, every moment feels unstable, and every day pushes people closer to the edge. This goes far beyond broken buildings. It exposes a deep human crisis that keeps getting ignored. As we go deeper, prepare yourself for disturbing realities from the 10 most overcrowded prisons on the planet, where people are packed tighter than sardines and survival becomes a daily battle. At number 10 sits Bunia Central Prison in Congo. What once was designed to hold only a few hundred inmates now looks more like a chaotic street market than a correctional facility. Cells overflow, hallways are jammed, and personal space simply does not exist anymore. Reports reveal that this prison has exceeded its capacity by a shocking 500%, turning daily life into a constant struggle. Food is scarce, clean water is limited, and sanitation barely functions, creating conditions where illness spreads fast and without warning. Disease moves through the population unchecked, feeding on overcrowding and neglect, while help arrives far too late for many. Tragically, countless inmates lose their lives inside these walls, never making it back to the outside world. Moving up the list, number 8 is Black Beach Prison in Equatorial Guinea, a place infamous not only for severe overcrowding, but for brutal treatment as well. Operating at over 300% capacity, inmates face extreme malnutrition, violent beatings, and constant fear. Medical care is nearly non-existent, leaving the sick and injured to suffer in silence. The stories coming from inside paint a chilling picture of daily survival, making its reputation as one of the world's most feared prisons impossible to deny. At number 7 is Haiti's National Penitentiary, a facility already bursting at the seams, even before the devastating 2010 earthquake struck. At that time, it was holding over 450% more inmates than intended. When the earthquake hit, it shattered what little structure remained, leaving prisoners trapped among cracked walls, broken floors, and unstable ruins. Today, inmates live surrounded by the haunting aftermath, with danger, decay, and uncertainty shaping every single moment behind bars. The lack of basic necessities like food and clean drinking water only deepens the suffering inside these walls. Disease spreads fast in these packed conditions, with outbreaks that could easily be prevented if proper care and resources existed. Instead, sickness becomes routine, and many inmates never recover. Death is no longer shocking here, it is expected, exposing just how urgent and ignored this humanitarian disaster really is. At number 6 sits La Banta Prison in Venezuela, a place many describe as a ticking time bomb ready to explode at any moment. Built to hold around 15,000 inmates, the facility now squeezes in more than 25,000 people, pushing it to a dangerous 166% capacity. The system inside has completely collapsed, leaving authorities barely able to control anything. Power has shifted, rules are meaningless, and chaos fills the gaps left by broken leadership. Violent clashes between inmates happen regularly, turning survival into a daily gamble. Food, clean water, and medical care are painfully scarce, forcing prisoners to fight just to stay alive. In La Banta, every day feels like a test of endurance, and many do not make it through. Number 5 brings us to Malawi's Central Prison, hidden deep within Africa, but carrying a reputation that chills anyone who hears about it. This facility is packed at over 200% capacity, making overcrowding the norm rather than the exception. Even more disturbing, many inmates are trapped in legal limbo, waiting years for trials that never seem to come. Time passes, hope fades, and lives are left on pause. Malnutrition is widespread, disease spreads unchecked, and death is not rare here, it is frequent and unforgiving. The prison stands as a warning of what happens when neglect becomes policy. Number 4 is Luzira, maximum security prison in Uganda, often called the Alcatraz of Africa. Designed for just 500 inmates, it now holds more than 3,000 people, an astonishing 600% over capacity. Prisoners are crammed into suffocating spaces, fighting for food, water, and air. Adding to the horror are death row inmates living under the constant shadow of execution, waiting in fear inside an already brutal environment. At number 3 is Azalco Prison in El Salvador, where gang rivalry has turned incarceration into open warfare. Built for only 800 inmates, it now holds over 4,000 prisoners, hitting a terrifying 500% capacity. Rival groups battle for control daily, making violence unavoidable. Many inmates are caught in this non-stop power struggle, and too often, they pay the ultimate price. The prison has turned into a boiling pot of non-stop tension, making it painfully clear that real reform is no longer optional, it is overdue. Violence simmers beneath every interaction. Tempers stay flared, and one wrong move can set everything off. This environment isn't just unstable, it is dangerous, exposing how badly intervention is needed before conditions spiral even further out of control. At number 2 is Lemodelo Prison, a chilling example of what happens when neglect becomes routine and accountability disappears. Originally built to hold around 3,000 inmates, this facility now traps more than 11,000 people inside its walls. Oh, that is a jaw-dropping 366% overcapacity, pushing sanitation systems far beyond their breaking point. Toilets overflow, hygiene collapses, and health emergencies erupt again and again. Diseases spread quickly in these conditions, turning minor illnesses into major threats. But overcrowding isn't even the full story here. Corruption runs deep, and it's widely believed that inmates themselves control much of what happens inside. Authority has shifted, rules bend easily, and power no longer sits where it should. This breakdown highlights just how urgently sweeping reforms and serious oversight are needed to restore any sense of order. Taking the number 1 spot is Quezon City Jail, widely regarded as the most overcrowded jail on Earth. Designed for just 800 inmates, it now holds an unbelievable 5,000 prisoners. That's an almost unthinkable 625% overcapacity. Inside, people are packed so tightly it feels less like a jail and more like a sealed container with no room to move. Space is so limited that many inmates are forced to sleep in shifts because lying down all at once is impossible. Basic necessities like food, clean water, and sanitation are constantly in short supply, making everyday life a brutal test of endurance. Survival here isn't guaranteed. It's a daily struggle against crushing odds. While prisons are meant to correct and rehabilitate, these 10 institutions reveal a far darker reality. Extreme overcrowding strips people of dignity and creates explosive environments where despair thrives and violence feels inevitable. The message is impossible to ignore. Global prison reform is not just needed, it is critical right now.